Your fever is high and the pressure to log in at work is too. But when you finally decide to take care of you, there's Instacart. Just because that one perfect coworker of yours is attending all meetings, camera on while she's sneezing, coughing, and aching, doesn't mean you have to do the same. Take it from us. Trying to stay on top of things will only get you further behind. Instead, get everything from tissues and teas to cough suppressants and comforting soups delivered through Instacart in as fast as 30 minutes. If anyone needs anything, they can just redirect their questions to that one perfect coworker of yours.
Why?
Why?
If you have T-Mobile 5G home internet, you might be hearing this
Why?
a lot.
Why?
Every time your internet slows down during the busiest hours.
Why?
Why?
Because your network gives priority to cell phone users.
Why?
Good question. Why not switch to Cox Internet with 2 times faster download speeds than T-Mobile 5G home internet during peak hours?
Okay.
Stop the whys and visit cox.com/5G home for details. T-Mobile prioritizes certain T-Mobile phone users over home internet users during times of congestion.
Celebrate and save at Ashley's Anniversary Sale. With Hot Buys, your choice of colors starting at just $3.99. Ashley Sleep mattresses starting at $2.50. Plus, receive a free adjustable base with select mattress purchases. And shop top mattress brands like Stearns & Foster, Tempur-Pedic, Purple, and Beautyrest Black with 60-month special financing. Only at Ashley. Subject to credit approval. No minimum purchase required. Minimum monthly payment, down payment, tax, and delivery may be required. See store for details.
Cody Stavenhagen joins us. He is a beat writer for the Detroit Tigers, works for The Athletic, and we're happy to have Cody. Cody, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, doing well, guys. Thanks for having me.
So you're on with me, and I'm a Cardinals fan, so what happens in the American League is, I pay some attention, but I'm not emotionally wrapped up. My son, Jeff, who's a co-host here, is a devout Cleveland Guardians fan. I've been trying to tell him all spring that I think the Tigers are in position for a pretty nice breakout in the relatively near future. He thinks I'm crazy. Where do you come down on that?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. People around the Tigers definitely have a big feeling of optimism this spring. Won 78 games last year, had some young hitters really emerge. They have Tarek Skubal, could be one of probably the most underrated pitcher in the entire league. But I still think there's some uncertainty, right? Depending on young hitting is always a volatile ask in the major leagues. You don't know how these guys are going to perform. You have some pieces. Do you have enough pieces? Do you have enough veteran influence? They're going to start a rookie at second base in Colt Keith, who's already signed a pre-debut extension. He's a really talented player. But how much impact can he make right off the bat? They feel like their pitching is in good shape, but, accounting for injuries can change the season just like that. I think the Tigers organization is the healthiest it has been in a long, long time. How many wins that will translate to, I think it's still hard to say.
How popular do you think that pre-debut extension will become? We've seen it with, like you said, Colt Keith, Jackson Churio did it. There have been several guys over the last few years, but just kind of a trickle effect. Is that going to become something a little bit bigger in baseball? And also from the players already on the roster that have been there, are there other extension candidates with the Tigers that you think they might try to lock up?
Yeah, I think the pre-debut extensions and early career extensions are certainly popular among front offices. We've seen them become more common. It makes sense if you have a really talented guy to buy out his arbitration years, hopefully in hopes of gaining a little more team control. At the same time, I'm not sure that it's ever going to become all the rage. I know there are a lot of agents out there who don't like it. They feel like it can lead to players selling themselves short. In the case of a kid like Colt Keith, he's getting $28 million guaranteed. There are incentives that could make the contract up to, I believe, $80 million. You can see why he took it. He just guaranteed himself wealth for his entire life. At the same time, if you look at the average annual value, if he becomes a star like the Tigers hope he can, he's going to be severely underpaid in 5 or 6 years. So I always kind of go back and forth on these arguments. It kind of depends what the individual wants, maybe the needs for their families, things like that. But I think there are enough agents that are opposed to even having some of these negotiations that it's never going to become entirely popular. Some of the Tigers' other guys who can make sense are probably Spencer Torkelson and Tarek Skubal. They're both Scott Boras clients. Scott Boras doesn't really do these deals. But another guy to watch is Riley Green, who is as talented as any player on this team. Been a little banged up the past couple of years. If he could stay healthy, he could really have a breakout year. And I could see the Tigers wanting to sign him to an extension early in his career as well.
Well, we have Bob here, who obviously thinks Detroit's on the way up. We have Jeff, who's a huge Cleveland fan. Wichita has the AA affiliate of the Twins. So we're kind of got the Central covered here. How do you see the Central panning out this year?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I think it's probably going to be the worst division in the league yet again. They're in a weird spot where it seems like no one has really been aggressive in trying to win this division. The Twins are probably going to enter the season as the favorite, as the incumbent division champions. I would think the Guardians on paper, given what they did last year, have the best chance to challenge, but we didn't see a ton of aggressive moves from Cleveland this offseason. There are certainly people who think Detroit could be kind of the rising dark horse to challenge the Twins in this division. It's one of those things. A lot of people think if you can win 84, 85 games in the Central, that might be enough to win you the division.
Talking Detroit Tigers with Cody Stavenhagen from The Athletic. I'm curious about this rotation. We all believe Tarek Skubal is destined to be one of the better pitchers in the American League. After him, how does it shake out? I'm sure they're extremely encouraged by Jack Flaherty, who has had 2 really good spring outings in a row where his velocity has been up. I hate that the Cardinals gave up on him, but understand why. What do you think of the rotation of the Tigers? How important is Flaherty to that rotation?
Yeah, the Tigers are kind of, I think, a bubbling pitching development organization. They have pitching coaches and guys like Chris Fetter and Robin Lund, who are really showing an aptitude for being able to get more out of the pitchers they have to work with, whether it's adding a tick or two of velocity or totally revamping a guy's arsenal. They had a lot of success with Michael Lorenzen, who they ended up trading at last year's deadline, went on to throw a no-hitter with the Phillies. Flaherty is kind of in that mold, a guy who's really talented, has had a rough go the past few years. They basically think they can reshape Jack Flaherty into a completely different pitcher, and the early returns this spring are pretty good. They signed a more proven guy in Kenta Maeda, the former Minnesota Twin. He's got a nasty splitter, can do a lot of good things with the baseball. And then they host talented young guys like Casey Mize and Matt Manning, who at one time were highly, highly ranked prospects, just have not been healthy earlier in their careers. But both those guys are having tremendous springs as well. Same can be said for Reese Olson, who's competing with Mize and Manning for a rotation spot. He was dynamite in September last season, also had a strong spring. So they actually have a surplus of pitching entering the season. They feel really good, obviously still banking on some of this development to translate into regular season games, though.
So the Tigers had Miguel Cabrera, who they were paying big money while he was on a decline for the last few years. But that's Miguel Cabrera, a Hall of Famer, a guy who built up tons and tons of goodwill in Detroit and went out with only good feelings. Now they have Javi Baez, who they're paying big money while he's on the decline, and he has not built up that goodwill. I don't know that necessarily means anything about his status, whether he'll get to play a bunch or not, but what do you make of that whole situation with Javi Baez?
Yeah, it's not shaping up to be a good situation right now. He was a little bit disappointing his first year in Detroit. Last year, he was the second worst qualified hitter in all of baseball. The fans really have not embraced him. I seem to get a different message or DM every day, like, when are the Tigers going to cut Javi Baez? The reality is he's under contract for 4 years and $98 million. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. You know, there was talk of making some changes, strengthening his back and his core, and maybe simplifying his swing. Well, Baez is, I believe, 3 for 32, 3 for 33 this spring. He's looked pretty lost at the plate. I'm not seeing a lot of signs of a turnaround coming. It might be a rough go of things the next couple of years. Really, it's come down to he's still a plus defender at shortstop. They hope they can get some good defense out of him, enough to live with his struggles at the plate. But the reality is it is not great for Javi Baez in Detroit right now.
We're talking Detroit Tigers with Cody Stavenhagen from The Athletic. So you mentioned the Central and how underwhelming it is. I have a similar situation in the National League Central, but with a lot of teams that seem to be trying to move the needle. There seems to be no one outside of maybe the Brewers who have stood pat. And that's the point I've made with the Tigers. They at least seem to be trying to move the needle to some degree, and they have one of the best managers in baseball in A.J. Hinch. So if you put the teams in front of me and say, pick one of these teams that nobody's expecting a whole lot from to do better than expected, and there's always a team or two like that, the Tigers come to mind. Could you see that happening?
Yeah, I think there's a world in which it definitely happens. If you were to say that to some people in the Tigers front office, they'd be really happy right now, because I'm pretty positive that is exactly how they feel. They think they have some of the right pieces in place, that they're doing things in the organization under the hood that are going to help these guys succeed in regular season games. I think there's a world in which it happens, but it does depend on a lot going right, which in the difficult sport of baseball is never an easy ask. You need guys like Kerry Carpenter, who hit 20-plus homers last year, to repeat that performance. You need Riley Green to stay healthy. You need Torkelson to take another step forward. You need some of these younger pitchers who have been hurt to stay healthy and really shove this year. There's a world in which that all happens. There's a world in which a few things go awry and your lineup just ends up being too young to kind of tread the water. The Tigers were 28th in runs scored last year. I think their pitching is in a good place. I think it's ultimately going to be a question of how much can they bump up that run scoring. They probably need to get from 28th to league average around 15th to have a shot at the playoffs.
All right, good stuff, Cody. We really appreciate it. The Tigers open a week from tomorrow in Chicago against the White Sox. We appreciate your time. Thank you for being on.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Happy to join anytime. Take care.
How powerful is Cox Internet? Powerful enough to let your band members in Vegas, Phoenix, and Rhode Island jam like you're all in the same garage. Get Cox Internet powered by fiber with America's fastest download speeds. It's internet built for tomorrow, today. Cox, always building better. Cox Internet is connected to the premises via coaxial connection. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms and other restrictions may apply. Analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence Data. Fixed median download speeds. US Q3 2023.
Celebrate and save at Ashley's Anniversary Sale. With Hot Buys, your choice of colors starting at just $3.99. Ashley Sleep mattresses starting at $2.50. Plus, receive a free adjustable base with select mattress purchases. And shop top mattress brands like Stearns & Foster, Tempur-Pedic, Purple, and Beautyrest Black with 60-month special financing. Only at Ashley. Subject to credit approval. No minimum purchase required. Minimum monthly payment, down payment, tax, and delivery may be required. See store for details.
The national sales event is on at your Toyota dealer, making now the perfect time to get a great deal on a dependable new car. Like a legendary Camry, built for performance and available with all-wheel drive, you can count on your new Camry to get anywhere you need to go. And with available features like heated seats and a multimedia touchscreen, you can stay connected in comfort and style. Or check out an affordable and reliable Corolla with a trim for every lifestyle. From the hip and agile sedan to the sporty hatchback, there's a dependable Corolla built just for you. Plus, both Camrys and Corollas are available in hybrid models, so no matter your style, you can drive efficiently and affordably. And right now, your local Toyota dealer has more vehicles in stock and is making delivery on new vehicles almost every day. So visit your local Toyota dealer. And check out amazing national sales event deals on Camrys, Corollas, and more when you visit buyatoyota.com. Offers end April 1st. Toyota, let's go places.